From the farthest reaches of the galaxy, the Midwest, you're watching Beyond the Blast Doors live.
Welcome into Beyond the Blast Doors, episode 61, and we are excited to be here on the Sunday. We're talking. We have a lot to get to this morning. I guess I'm just kind of caught off guard by the subject matter because we're talking about, is Darth Vader too powerful in Star Wars? Now that we're getting more books, more comics, is he too powerful? Bob Iger apparently has footage of episode 9, and he's showing everybody but us. And Hasbro, once the fans get involved, the Empire Strikes Back action figure has been finalized to the top 10. We're going to dive into it right now. And this is how I'm going to cue the camera change. That's exciting because, we actually are doing the multicam setup. David Amilati here. He's your host. Jesse Buck joins me now. And we are going to be learning how this is all working. And it's going to be a lot of fun. But big thanks for you joining us on this episode. Crazy, despite the topics that I've already mentioned, on top of all that, we're getting more Star Wars Celebration. We're a month away, Jesse.
Oh, yeah. We're getting really close to that.
And a month away, and I'm thinking about it, and it's like, I'm thinking about it, and I wonder, are we going to have any more announcements as far as folks coming out as signing autographs? Because Ahmed Best and Aaron Kellyman have all come out, and they've been announced as folks coming out to sign. Is that the point where we're just getting too many people showing out at this thing?
Oh, no, not at all. I pre-ordered for Daniel Logan and Tamora Morrison.
Mm-hmm.
Got to get, the fets that I can. So I'm really excited about that. I've been doing a lot of work on my armor, just checking for adjustments, repairs, trying to get a jetpack going, and it's crazy times.
Well, let's go ahead and get into it. Our first topic of today's episode. And by the way, we want to remind you that you can find us on a slew of platforms right now. If you're watching maybe the show live on YouTube, I always encourage you to join us on the live show on Sundays, 11 a.m. Central. But you can also catch us on iTunes, Spotify. You can find us on SoundCloud, as well as on patreon.com/Beyond the Blast Doors. And we want to remind you that this show is brought to you by our sponsors, the Fantasy Shop in Maplewood, Missouri. We're proud to have our local comic book shop as our official sponsor. Comics, collectibles, toys, Magic the Gathering, and board games. The Fantasy Shop in St. Louis, proudly serving St. Louis since 1981. And I have to say, I'm really excited about this first topic because we are talking about Galaxy's Edge. In the last week or so, we have gotten this new announcement. We have all this new information about Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, which is the Star Wars theme park that we now know is set to open in Disneyland May 31st. And then August 29th is when the Galaxy's Edge will open in Florida. And really excited about seeing this theme park. Not sure when I get to go. Not sure when you get to go, Jesse. I don't think we're going right when the park's open.
Oh, no, definitely not. I'd say wait at least a year.
Well, I don't think we're going to be able to get tickets until at least a year. I think there's people that are going to beat us on the punch.
Yeah.
Even though I don't know, I don't believe ticket sales our tickets have been made available to purchase yet. However, there is a report that came out. Basically what happened was within the last week or so, select media people were allowed to come into the Disneyland location and get to experience Galaxy's Edge. Mm-hmm. They got to see the Millennium Falcon. They got to see the Rise of the Resistance ride, the Smuggler's Run ride. They got to go see all the different shops. They got to see and sample the foods, the drinks, the merch. And Chad Sendell, for example, was the ABC correspondent who does a lot of the Star Wars stuff that he breaks. He was there. He had a very thorough report. He was on StarWarsNewsNet.com's Resistance Broadcast, buddy of our show, John Hoey, that was on the show a few weeks ago. They interviewed him there, and he was talking about it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a deep dive into the new things that we've learned. And we've broken this down. We have the game, the rides, we have the food, we have the merch, and Jesse and I think we're going to stick with talking about the food and the merch the most. Because the two rides that we know that we have at Galaxy's Edge, we're going to have Star Wars Smuggler's Run, Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. where we're going to be playing as the crew of the Millennium Falcon, and we are going to have a variety of responsibilities based on our location on the ride. You'll be able to rotate on that ride, and you get different perspectives. The other ride we have is Star Wars Rise of Resistance. Now, this is where you're captured by the First Order, and you'll come face-to-face with Kylo Ren. Jesse, everyone talking about this ride in particular. Chad made mention of this. As you're kind of being loaded into this ride, you go through a First Order hangar, very reminiscent of the hangar that we see in The Force Awakens. Mm-hmm. When you think about the scale of this ride, because we're being told we have life-size Falcon and the life-size TIE fighters. Like, there's TIE fighters on the wall like that. How much time would you like to see spent in that area?
I mean, I'd like to say, the thing is I'd want to spend like as much time as possible in there.
Well,
like,
that's not an option because you only get like 20 seconds. It's like when it's like walking through the line. That's what you get. But when you think about these two rides, I probably didn't set you up for a fair enough question because I wanted to bust your bubble real quick. Which ride, though, excites you the most? I am leaning towards that you're more excited for Rise of the Resistance because you want to play with the First Order.
Actually, the Falcon.
Really?
Yeah.
Why does the Falcon ride excite you more?
I don't know. It feels it's the Falcon. The idea of being on the Falcon, is exciting and everything. The idea of maybe getting to be a turret gunner, or put the ship into hyperspace.
So it's not so much the storyline because again, Galaxy's Edge theme park, it's all canon. There is an overarching canon story that you actually have a role that you play in as a guest of the park. So you're telling me that between the two rides that we know that we're going to have opening day, you're more excited about the Falcon because you get to play in the ship, not so much the story.
Yeah, I get to play in the ship.
I would be curious if you're watching or listening. I want you to comment and let us know if when you're talking strictly about the rides, are you more excited for the storyline or are you more excited for the immersive experience where you're able to be on the ship, where you're able to go through the First Order hangar, experience the detail? Chad, in his story, is talking about how it's so overwhelmingly immersive. You really are taken out. And the fun thing, like Disney owns the air above the park, so like planes can't fly. There's nothing is going to be able to suck you out of the environment. And he's talking just about the detail going through this First Order hangar, and he's like, you just get to spend so little time in there. He wishes the whole ride could take place. There is a rumor that the ride start to finish takes 20 minutes.
Oh wow.
That cannot be true though, because you have to move people in and out of your park. If it's a 20-minute ride, that means you maybe get, you don't even get 3 complete loops in an hour. You're open from 8 a.m. until midnight? I don't know. It's such a finite. I feel like it's going to be shorter. It's probably closer to 10 minutes. In the interview with the Resistance broadcast, Sandel did confirm that it is not 20 minutes long. So we'll see what happens there. But we have a screen capture. We're showing you kind of like this article that we've had on StarWars.com, and it's got pretty cool images coming to us from the ride. So like the first two, when we scroll there, if we can go to the top, Jordan, just so people can see. Okay, maybe you got to scroll down. We're at the top of the website. It's fine. So that's the first image for Smuggler's Run. That's an image from inside the cockpit. And then if we go to the next one real quick, now you're seeing the inside of this hangar that I was talking about. It's pretty cool. And while we're there, if we just keep on scrolling down, the new kind of ships that we're going to see in this, because we've mentioned that we're getting an X-Wing. Or I haven't mentioned that yet in the episode, but we're getting the X-Wing, getting the Falcon. But what do you make about this TIE Echelon that we're going to have on this, Jesse? What do you think about the TIE Echelon?
Anything that, like, again, immerses me into the Star Wars world and everything, like seeing the ships, seeing something I haven't seen before, that's going to be exciting. The
TIE Echelon is a ship that they are suggesting is in Episode 9. It looks like a cross between Kylo Ren's shuttle and a TIE, like, I don't want to say TIE Interceptor, but kind of. Maybe it's the TIE Advanced. Jordan, this is the one where it's on the other tab. So whenever you're able to go to the full shot and then come back to it, that'd be awesome. But what I love about this is just the stirring it's creating in the fan base, because we're talking about, from our understanding, the story of Batuu. This is like post episode 8. This is leading us towards episode 9, and here we are getting this new ship that we believe is for elite troopers. We know very little on it. So the description that we have on StarWars.com is: walking through Galaxy's Edge, you'll spot a kind of TIE fighter never previously seen, the TIE Echelon, and a newly created shuttle, the ITS, or Inter-System Transport Ship, which will start your mission on Rise of Resistance. And so, Jordan, if we can go to that image now, if that's all right, it's probably further down on the article. There we go. That's the TIE Echelon right there. If we can bring that on camera just so you can talk. And, of course, if you don't know what we're talking about, maybe you're listening on the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or SoundCloud. On the live show on YouTube, we're going to show you the image of the TIE Echelon. And as you can see it, Jesse, it looks like the shuttle, like the main part of Kylo Ren's shuttle from Force Awakens, but then it has these TIE wings on the side. And people are trying to figure out, is that the front? Is that back? I assume that's the front. The guns are pointed to the front. There's no ions on it.
I'm going to say that's the front. It definitely kind of reminds me of a dropship.
There's some speculation that this might be Kylo's ship. This might be Special Ops ship. Either way, though, that looks like something that you're going to have to explore when you're at the park. What does stick out? What aesthetically do you like about that ship?
Honestly, it screams like, you've mentioned it twice now, like a Special Forces, or like a yeah, and it's got the front end. It seems heavily armed too at second glance, as well. And the coloration is definitely very reminiscent of like the Empire, where like the First Order. Like, the Kylo Ren shuttle was completely black. His TIE silencer was, fairly dark. This has the more traditional, like, TIE Fighter-esque colorations, and that makes me happy, too.
Yeah, I really dig what we're seeing there. And that's what I like about the new surprises that we're going to have. And there's just so many of these surprises that we're going to encounter over the course of our time at the park. I think about, like, the merch. Okay, so let's talk about this. Because they're going to let you build your own lightsaber, Jesse. Can you explain what we're going to experience when it comes to the opportunity to craft your own blade?
So when I first read this part of the article, I immediately thought of the Clone Wars episode where the younglings, had to get their kyber crystals, and then they were on the ship with the droid, and and he's got like the box with all the different parts, like hilt parts and everything. That was just immediately where I went with my imagination. But yeah, so apparently you're going to be able to kind of... I'm pretty sure these are going to be fairly like quick parts, so you're not going to be able to sit there like 2 days and design, like this epic, thing. It's going to be like, oh, I like that part and that part and that part. But from this description, so you build your hilt, it's going to have a kyber crystal in it and everything, and the price point, I believe it starts at about $150, and that's just like on the low end.
That's the hilt, and we're learning that the blade is an extra $100, so you're looking at $250 for a blade.
Yeah,
but that's what basic level FX blade. That's a basic Cyberforge blade. I mean, this is quality.
Basic F. I have an FX lightsaber, and I want to say that ran me about $120.
Okay.
And then my Saber Forge, we did a review on that last month, and after shipping and everything, that ran me about $250. And I mean, you handled my Saber Forge, so I mean, if we're looking at that kind of price point, I expect that quality of work with it.
I was thinking about it because when you think about like Harry Potter World, for example, you have the option of going there and building your wand, and that wand, depending on where you are in the park, there's like interactive elements.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to have interactive elements with a lightsaber, but I never would have fathomed that if a Star Wars world, Galaxy's Edge, was created, I never thought this kind of quality lightsaber. Like, I thought you'd get like Hasbro like pieces of Hasbro lightsabers you could assemble and build your own custom thing. This is what it sounds like. You're going to be able to go into this shop. It's called Sevi's Workshop, where you can make a custom Jedi or Sith weapon, but there's going to be a variety of pieces that will resemble like key character lightsabers. So if you want to make like an Obi-Wan lightsaber, you could do that. Or if you wanted to make Mace Windu lightsaber, you could do that. Or if you kind of want to make, hobgobbled version of your own, that's fine too. But I never thought you would get this quality of replica from the park. And I think that's going to be a huge attraction for a lot of people. I'm interested in how long the process takes, how many people can be in the shop at one time, what are your options if stuff runs out. I mean, there is a lot of logistics here because this is going to be a focal point for, I think, a lot of people's experience.
Well, exactly. Again, think about it, like as you mentioned, okay, so we have key parts of like, popular like lightsaber design, pieces from the movies. So like what I am imagining is, again, I walk in here and it's like bins of stuff and everything's got to fit together. Like, okay, and it's got to be laid out properly too, just because they're going to need people to kind of move along and not spend all day, trying to do this. So, okay, so maybe they've got like a basic like hilt where these extra pieces all attach to easily, very like a universal hilt and everything. And then you choose your lightsaber color, blue crystal, green crystal, red crystal, or something. It probably all clicks together and everything. And it's really neat because there's a lot of stuff out there. It's 3D printing guy had this, and that's what I'm kind of thinking is maybe I'm hoping that these aren't plastic either.
I don't think they are.
I really hope they're not plastic.
No, that's the whole point. That's why it's costing $150. Yeah. These are real materials. This is high grade stuff. I don't know if that $100 blade is going to be like a dueling blade quality.
Probably not. I mean, like,
but it's going to be pretty nice.
I think some of the newer FX sabers have a removable blade on them, but they're still not like a dueling blade. Like what I have on my Saber Forge is a dueling blade. But still, just the experience, like
absolutely.
Depending on how it's all dressed up, how long like. I'm assuming, as you move along the line, kind of thing. Like, do they put it together? Do I put it together?
Oh, you're putting it together.
Like
you're putting that. You are completing your Jedi training and building a lightsaber and becoming a Jedi Knight. Because you can also get like, the robes. That's what I want to talk about next. Is the fact. What do you make about the costuming here? Because you can actually get yourself Jedi robes, Sith robes. They show like Rey for the kid, Kylo for the boy. You can have like the Obi-Wan for the man. Like. It doesn't look like Halloween costumes you get at Johnny Brock's. This looks like real robes.
Yeah, okay, so that's the other thing. Like that was the other picture that really drew my attention. You just mentioned it. So you've got basically like the traditional Jedi garb, and then it shows a mannequin with kind of like a black like hooded shawl kind of thing, and then you got like a small like a kid's Jedi costume, and then you got like a kid's Rey costume from Jakku, but just kind of like. Looking at them and looking for like the details and everything, you can definitely tell that these are a little bit higher quality than say something you'd get off of like Amazon. If you go on Amazon or Etsy and look up like Jedi robes kind of thing, you'll know what I'm talking about. And like look at those on Amazon, look at this picture, and you'll go, okay, yeah, there's definitely a quality difference. Like these look good.
As a cosplayer,
like I don't know if I'd want to buy the whole thing, but if I'm able to buy maybe like pieces to like enhance my own Jedi.
We don't have any understanding of the price point for the robes as far as my research has shown. I haven't been able to find anything. I would be curious to know just how much a entire set, where it's like the boots, the pants, the whatever, how much that would bring in, because I wonder if that would be more cost effective for the lay fan, not the cosplayer, because a lot of folks are going to be showing up and they're going to want to buy their robes and get into the robes and walk around the park in their robes. I mean, that's going to be like very enticing to do.
If they're quality, again, this is where like maybe
it might be a good entry point.
Yeah, if anything, it would be nice to like. Do you have to buy the whole thing, or can you, I just want this. Because boots aren't cheap. I can tell you that.
Yours were like $100 something.
No,
right?
like I lucked out. I got they ran like $60.
Oh well, 60 is pretty.
That's pretty reasonable. And and I used to work for a shoe company and everything. And
that employee discount.
I'm just saying, like in general, your general price range for just like a basic tennis shoe these days ranges anywhere between $50 and $70 anyway. So. I'd be a little bit concerned about the quality and the footwear, but in terms of the actual clothing aspects, it definitely seems better than what you would normally find on like Amazon or something.
I think it's fair to say that this park looks to take all your money by the time you leave, because you're going to want to build your lightsaber, you want to get your robes, pay admission, whatever that, however much that is. But then also the food and the drink. And Jordan, if we can go back to that original web story and want to scroll down to point 11 on this. StarWars.com, by the way, did this article, 27 things we just learned about Galaxy's Edge. And number 11, or actually it's technically number 12, Jordan. But this is going to, it's showcasing all the new information. So it's about new stuff about the rides, the merch, and of course the food. Okay, blue milk. It's a real thing now.
Hey, there's green milk.
We're talking, yeah, right. We're talking about this thing. By the way, it's the largest expansion of any of the Disney parks. We're talking about 14 acres of Star Wars immersive world. And it wouldn't be fully immersive unless you could sip from blue milk. Now, you before the show said that you did not like how they did the blue milk, which I think is very nitpicky. I think the fact that you should just be happy that you're getting it. I think everyone should just be happy that they're getting it.
It looks like a milkshake.
It looks like a McDonald's milkshake.
Yeah, so it looks like a milkshake, and I'm sitting here going like, wait a minute, but like green and blue milk's kind of like, it's milk. It's supposed to be kind of runny. I mean, as long as they give me my initial wish of it being dispensed from a alien-like creature mammary gland, I'd be completely immersed at that point.
Now, keep in mind, I believe this is a non-alcoholic beverage, but they will be serving alcoholic beverages at the cantina. So, like, you can actually go to the bar.
Cantina fight.
Well, no. I'm not encouraging that at all, because that's, someone's going to do that. Like, someone's going to be funny, and they're going to get their Obi-Wan costume, and they're going to get a classic Kenobi blade, and they're just going to try and start hacking people's arms off. And it's like they're going to start calling like Dr. Ezavad, and it's like, no, my name is Johnny. But I think it would be kind of cool to go in there, get myself a drink, or if not, get this classic blue milk. I like how they have green milk too, in case you would prefer your milk from a Thala siren, which is of course most people's favorite scene from The Last Jedi.
Who's the saying that the blue milk doesn't come from a similar like creature?
StarWars.com. Makes the point of difference that they are two different people. That's the blue milk, though. The next image that they show us, though, this looks delicious. I like how the food, it's not just like, here's a hot dog. It's a Ronto roaster. And Docking Bay 7 Food and Cargo will be the destination for your food. Look at this. This is like pita with like sausage and like cheese and lettuce. Now, Jordan, who does not eat meat, looks slightly turned off by this meal. And I don't blame him. It looks a little suspect. But I'm going to try it a little, because pita, which Jordan's also responsible for my fixation with pita. I'll eat that stuff no matter what, whenever. But the dressing there, it looks pretty cool. And Jesse, it seems like it's food like that's familiar to us, but it's also very different. It feels like it's not going to take us out of it.
Well, it's dressed up. Like, sure, I want a hot dog, but I don't want it to look like a normal hot dog or something like that. Have fun with it. I'm interested with the price point on this too, because when I went to Disney as a kid a long time ago, like
meals are like $15, $18.
Yeah, it wasn't cheap
to
eat in the park kind of thing. So but at the same time, again, this is all about the experience. So you're going to want that lightsaber. You're going to maybe want to buy some Jedi robes, and then afterwards you're going to want some blue or green milk, followed by with your I don't know, your Ronto burger, or your
listen to the names of some of these foods. And if you're watching live, I want you to let me know what in the live chat, which one of these sounds the most appetizing to you. If you're catching us on the rewind, or you're watching or listening on whether it's iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, let us know in the comments below. The fried Endorian tip-yip, which is fried chicken with roasted vegetable mash and herb gravy. Ronto Roasters Ronto Wrap, which is filled with spice grilled sausage and roasted pork. I'd go with that. Mm-hmm. And then Star Wars Rebels fans will enjoy this Malorian juice, which is from one of the creatures there. Let me know. Let us know in the live chat or comment down below which one of those sounds appetizing. I'm gonna be honest. Like fried chicken at a theme park sounds really good. Like I would go and do that. I get worried about like the vegetable mash because that just doesn't sound like a theme park meal. But again, this is an immersive world. We're not at a theme park, Jesse. We're going to Batu, Galaxy's Edge. Everything is canon. Scrolling down the list, because I kind of want to wrap this up. If we scroll down to 16, that's actually going to show you some of the lightsabers you can build and the costumes. And that's the detail, man. And that to me looks like set quality, film quality, robes. Really excited by that. We did mention as far as like Rise of the Resistance, the ride. It said it's the most epic attraction experiences we've ever built, according here to StarWars.com. But it's called Gloriously Long. Again, we still do not know when that ride ends. Like we don't know if it's 10 minutes long, 20 minutes long. It's been rumored. I heard one rumor almost a half hour, Jesse, and that just doesn't seem feasible because you're going to have to move thousands of people through these rides every day.
Well, I mean, if there's dialogue involved, like, okay, you're marching through a First Order hangar, maybe they stop you for 5 minutes and you get some pompous English guy giving you the First Order is great speech or something and calling you a rebel scum, something like that.
John Williams is actually creating an original score for this.
We got a teaser for that over the summer, if I recall.
We did, and it sounded just like, I mean, I'm not saying the spirit, it sounded just like soundtrack from the movie. I mean, as far as it's so influenced, but it did feel new.
I must have listened to it like 100 times, the teaser. So
there are moments where, depending on where you're at in the park, along the story, classic themes will come from the trilogy. I want to go down, I guess, this is the last point, because it's number 23. It's not the best image. I'm bummed about this, because there's actually a video, but I don't want to play it, because that would possibly get us in trouble on our live stream. But 23 is talking about how Hondo Ohnaka comes to life. This is an animatronic, and this is the most lifelike. It reminds me of like when you went to like, what is that, Epcot with the president ride?
Yeah.
And like everyone, like there's President Obama right there in animatronic form. It's like almost kind of like terrifying how realistic this is. But this is Hondo Ohnaka, which is the bounty hunter that we learned first from Clone Wars. He was in Rebels. He kind of went from this gruff, fearsome bounty hunter to like almost like comical relief working with our heroes over the years, which I'm not necessarily a fan of, but he's going to be a pivotal character in this park. I think it's a fascinating choice. That's the character they choose to kind of like lead the story around.
Well, I mean, smuggler kind of thing. He's been around. I mean, this is taking place after episode 8. Think of the timeline here. That's at least 40 years. He wasn't a spring chicken in Clone Wars, so I mean, he is an alien species, for starters, so that their aging and lifespan is probably unknown. But some people don't like Hondo. I love Hondo. Hondo is very entertaining to me. Like he's got the proper amount of like humor and like elements that you'd expect in Star Wars, where like there is like a hint of goofy but it's not like Jar Jar, goofy, and that's what makes me like him.
I'm really into it. I think it's a good payoff for the fans who are diehard, because a lot of the fans that are coming in here to buy the robes, the food, the sabers, X, Y, and Z, they're also probably consuming a lot of the canon, whether it's comics or novels, the Clone Wars, the Rebels. And now here's payback. Here's like a central character where the diehard is like, yes, thank you for rewarding me. And now the new fan is like, well, what's this about Hondo Ohnaka? Who's that guy? I need to learn more about that character. Oh, what's this TIE Echelon thing? Like, I want to learn about that ship. Oh, it's actually brand new. This is actually teaching me something about what could happen in episode 9 or later. Like, this is really exciting. And they've talked about how this park is designed where it's telling a specific story, but it can be updated in the future in a way so that the story is never, like, dated, which is really exciting, I think, for a fan, because it's like, it's not a thing where, like, I mean, you probably have to go to this park 2 or 3 times maybe to find everything. But there's a good chance that every time you go, there will be something new or different. And that's exciting, how this world will be able to warp itself as the Star Wars story continues on screen or in book or comic or whatever.
I wouldn't lie. Like I would strictly just go for this. I wouldn't worry about any of the other theme parks that Disney has. With this, as being a Star Wars nerd, I would spend my entire time here exploring and just seeing everything.
I want to eat some Ronto roasters, so I'm all in for
You're
this.
making me hungry right now. I'm starving.
I want to go to the live chat real quick. Everyone watching with us on YouTube right now, Bake the Snake, Mo Mello, Count Von Strange, Shannon Gates, John Boffman we have. Earlier we had Tony Beeman. I think Tony's actually still with us. He's just a little bashful, but it's so good to see Tony, a friend of ours from St. Louis, watching on the live show. And of course we have Nemesis Prime on here as well. Want to shout out Ms. P and John Boffman again. They are proud Patreon supporters of our podcast and show. They allow us to do the things like get new cameras, do new sets, have just like the programs that allow us to edit. So that's really cool. I want to know, we both want to know, we all want to know what you think about all this stuff that we just told you about Galaxy's Edge. How does this impact your excitement for the park? We don't think that we're going to be able to go for at least the first year. Tickets are going to be hard to come by. Are you going to try and get your tickets first? Or are you going to wait and let the crowds die down? I think it'd be kind of fun to wait like a couple of months because it's like, got to let the kinks get worked out.
Exactly. Like I said, when we went, when Animal Kingdom opened up, and there were still parts of it that weren't finished, that weren't available still. And while they're saying that these are, ahead of schedule or gonna open up, and maybe things build faster now. I guess that there's that, but. My inner instinct is like, give it a year. Let's them actually kind of flush out, everything, because you're making some valid points. I mean, these rides sound really extensive. So what if they are taking too long? That gives them time to actually smooth that out. Maybe speed up the process or something to that way they can work people through.
I had to look because I think there is one ride that is still not complete in the park. However, I do not have that note directly in front of me. And that's okay, because we have a lot to get to on the show. But Rise of the Resistance, I just remember, Rise of the Resistance is the one that still is like partially under construction, and so it's uncertain right now if it will be open when the park opens this summer in Disneyland. So we'll be sure to follow that. Great conversation. Let us know in the comments below what you think about all that stuff. Let's dive to that second topic in the show. New format. We're trying to work it out, trying to allow us more time to talk on certain topics, but instead of trying to cram 13 in a show, we're only going to try and do 5. How powerful is too powerful for Darth Vader? Vader Dark Visions #1 just dropped last week. Special shout out to the Fantasy Shop, by the way. Comics and Games, Maplewood, Missouri, sponsor of the show. Always keeping us up to date on the comic books. And what we have is a situation where basically Vader's in the space battle with the rebels. His ship gets not
damaged.
Destroyed, but damaged.
Yeah.
Has to lands on this like Godzilla, but like Star Wars-ified Godzilla creature with like multiple eyes and big claws. And he whoops its butt with the Force and with the lightsaber, massive Force jumping. This planet has been terrorized by this creature for, it's said, a very long period of time. They had to live underground in fear. And this young child is watching this god from the sky. This Black Knight is what he's referred to over and over again, this Black Knight. And then obviously Vader is victorious. He gets out, saved, and recovered from the Empire. And then this boy is left to tell the tale and pass on this story of the Dark Knight, the Black Knight, which I think is interesting because, again, here you go. Here's a story. Vader doesn't kill this kid. He just lets him go. But, he says, the Force is with you today. He spares his life. He goes back up with the Imperials. But another example of painting Vader as an anti-hero, not just a villain.
Yeah.
But there are some panels in this comic, Jesse, where you've got Vader flying around. This creature it's depicted so large. It's so large in comparison to Vader. And he's just able to bring him down. And we've seen a few instances where Vader has utilized the Force in comics. I think back to Charles Soule's run with Vader, one of his last issues. He's able to use the Force in a way to, protect himself from burning lava. There's a scene where, in the sense that he creates a force field and the lava isn't able to penetrate it. I think about like to Vader Down. Vader Down is that iconic scene where he's got the lightsaber in his hand and he says, "All I am is surrounded by dead men." And there's this battlefield with hundreds of troops and rebel tanks, and Vader slaughters them all. And I love Darth Vader, and I want more Darth Vader, but I've always kind of wanted to see more Vader on screen, just because that Rogue One finale, like that one scene was like, okay, I think you can do a Vader-focused movie, because in the past, really, Vader, people will argue like Vader, he gets 1 through 6. Not really. I mean, in 4 through 6, for example, he's more of a supporting character. You could argue, I guess, Empire Strikes Back, that he's like kind of like the lead on it.
No, I mean, I'd say Vader is a prominent. He's our main villain for A New Hope and Empire. The Emperor at this point in the original trilogy,
Not really a factor.
Not really a factor until Return.
But are you bothered? Are you bothered by the extremities of Vader here in the comics? Do you feel like the storytelling, and why? Why is the storytelling, you think, damaging to how you perceive Vader?
As a kid and everything, so I grew up with the original trilogy and everything, I mean, obviously not when it was in theaters kind of thing, but, like the 90s, aspect of it. So you're seeing this, and that's just how Vader was in those movies. And, you get the prequel trilogy, and, then you kind of like, okay, there's a lot more to the Force and Force abilities, and you get that from the prequel trilogy. But still what I'd call within norms of like what you would expect. And before the show, David is like, hey, can you look up in the EU, like prime examples of, like Vader just doing just crazy stuff. And honestly, I felt hard pressed.
Really?
Because I mean, I didn't read comics as a kid. We've mentioned this numerous times on the show and everything. I was mainly into books and everything. I started going over in my mind, the book Splinter in the Mind's Eye and everything. And Vader was very much original trilogy Vader in that. I even started thinking about pre-Disney acquisition video games, the Force Unleashed games. Again, I mean, he gets his butt kicked to first game and the second game, by Starkiller. So again, he's powerful but not over the top. And then we switch gears, we get into the Marvel, like after Disney acquisition, and you start seeing these crazy like stunts, bringing down this giant monster, and it's just like, okay, I guess you could argue, well, he's younger, but at the same time, I'm sitting there going like, no, I always felt like his wounds from his hindered him and everything,
Well, you were talking about earlier in like the Darth Vader run, something that kind of baffled you was how he fought Jedi Master.
I actually sat there and read that comic before the show, and I didn't get the name.
It's how he gets his lightsaber.
Yeah, it's issue
4 and 5.
It's basically I think 3 through 5.
Was that arc? Yeah,
was that little arc where he's fighting this this self-exiled Jedi Master who like their whole purpose was like battle and combat and everything, and since they weren't really needed or something, like they were like way out in the boonies. So like, and the particular like final fight and everything. I mean, like Vader, he gets his butt kicked, like almost killed kind of thing. And then he repairs himself with a scrap droid, and then he comes back, and it's just like, and then he wins the fight and everything by using like force lifting some civilians, and he's starting to like crush like a water reservoir or something. I mean, that seemed kind of plausible and everything, and that it's like that's a good example of okay, that's kind of good enough, You mentioned the finale in Rogue One. That it's a narrow corridor, so you're not having blaster fire coming in, 360 directions all around you, kind of thing.
And he doesn't get hurt once.
Yeah, so I mean, that was scary.
He's that good with the blade, man.
But then you mentioned this battlefield, and it's just like, come on, tanks. He's surrounded and everything. There's no way that he would be able to reflect and do all that.
Right. And just to clarify, it's Kuruk Infala, the Jedi Master that he defeated there. Star Wars Rebels is another example where we have Kanan and Ezra escape by bringing down the Walker on Vader.
He gets crushed 2 different times in Rebels. The escape with Kanan and Ezra.
Season 2, yeah.
He survives the fight with Ahsoka, when the temple collapses and everything. I mean, obviously they can't kill him in Rebels because, I mean, that wouldn't make sense at all. But I think they do have to be careful not to oversell him or anything. It's you're actually kind of taking me out of at being a fan for him. It's just like
maybe we're being over hypercritical. Is it? And this is the question I'm going to pose to the live chat, or if you're watching on the rewind, comment down below. iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube. Is it that Vader is too powerful, or is this just continued growing pains with how the Force works? We're learning now the Force can do more than what we've seen on screen because we have more storytellers, we have more creatives in the room telling these stories. It's not just what George says anymore. You have all these people kind of having their own input. They go to story group. The story group says, yeah, that's okay. That doesn't conflict with anything. Go for it. Is it that? Is it growing pains, or is it just Vader kind of being stretched as much as possible because Vader right now is what sells. And Vader is what sells right now. And so they're going to try and tell every story that they can with Vader. So kind of curious to see what people in the live chat think about. Let us know, of course, on your rewind. Comment down below. I want to remind you that comics next week, Age of Republic General Grievous. And we get Imperial Cadet number 5. The story has gotten better. I enjoyed 4. I do like the cover art for 5. Not sure how this arc is going to end up. Very fascinated to see what does happen. Age of Republic has been consistent, although we did have the Padme one drop this past week. Wasn't all that exciting for me personally, but I did like the convenience of it kind of matching up well with E.K. Johnson's Queen Shadow novel that dropped this week, because both stories kind of take a look at how Padme interacts with her handmaidens. Queen Shadow a lot more so. E.K. Johnson really focused on the relationship between Padme and the handmaidens as Padme is transitioning from Queen of Naboo to Senator, and you get to follow that story. So everyone is saying good things about E.K. Johnson works. Of course, her previous Star Wars title was the Ahsoka novel, so she's just got 2 wins so far. That's great. Love to see that. Again, Padme one-shot didn't work for me, but that's okay. Maybe it did for you. Really excited to see what we learn about Grievous coming up next week. Number 3 here on Beyond the Blast Doors, episode 61. Glad you're with us. I'm working through this bacterial infection or whatever, so I didn't have strep, but I sound like I might have had strep. But that's okay.
You kind of had a rough night anyway.
But it's okay.
You had an event last night.
I know. I had an event last night. I emceed for 7 hours. It was crazy. But just glad to be in this moment with you talking Star Wars. Hasbro announces finalists for Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back Black Series fan vote. This is pretty cool. So there was at one time 20 options, and it's now been narrowed down to 10. And there's websites like StarWarsNewsNet.com that has been gathering the fan votes, submitting this to Hasbro to weed this list down. We've got images of the top 10 that we're going to show you now, starting with Lobot that we have. We have Lobot. We have, what's the next one? 2-1B Droid is our next one that we'll have. And that's a familiar face from Empire Strikes Back, as is all of these, because it's the Empire Strikes Back Black Series fan vote. You have the Hoth Rebel Soldier. You have Wilro Hood, who is, this is fans having fun, which I think is great. Everyone gives this guy crap because in the movie, that is an ice cream maker in his hand. It's nothing special. I mean, it is something special for the story.
When you're evacuating a mining facility, and that may be the only ice cream maker in the whole station, you're going to protect that.
Wedge Antilles is the next one that we have. Wedge, who wouldn't want a Wedge figure? Princess Leia, this is going to be in her Bespin gown. I'm assuming that scene where she's like, I don't trust Lando. This is the Leia figure there. Dagobah, Luke Skywalker on Dagobah. I would be curious to know if that would just come with a Yoda that can mount his back. Mount his back. That is what I meant to say. Not mount him, mount his back. Okay, great. So that's cool. We have an Ognot, which to me seems like a waste. But you can have an Ognot at number 8. At number 9, Imperial Probe Droid.
Now, is this a complete Imperial Probe Droid, or the scrap pieces after Han and Chewie blast it?
It is definitely a complete Probe Droid. And then the last one is the FX, a medical droid. And again, another familiar face from the Hoth Rebel base. And thank you, Jordan. Awesome job following along with me on that. And, those are the 10. Those are the 10 that we had to choose from. The one that you feel has to happen, I want reasons why. Like, what's the one that you want to happen?
I want Luke and Dagobah and everything. Just something about that scene from the movies. It seems to capture a lot of attention. You know, and David Gilbert's not here with us. He's dealing with a back injury. But I mean, he's mentioned before his favorite scene, and that's when Yoda appears. So I think it's a very important moment. And when I collect things personally, you know, whether it's Lego or something, I'm trying to capture favorite moments. Just like I have that figure, I have that Lego set, and that represents that scene. For me, that's Luke Skywalker and like, you know, his tan, like, you know, attire and everything. You know, maybe an R2 unit with him that would be kind of cool too. Kind of like a dirty R2, you know. Or you mentioned, you know, Yoda, you know, but I mean, we haven't had a Black Series Yoda in a while either, so it'd be kind of nice, you know. It'd be maybe a more expensive, you know, if you're getting something like that, but I would pay it.
I'm not trying to be rude when I say this. I think the droids, first off, I'm going to get rid of the droids because I think they're a waste.
Yeah.
That's a waste of figure. Then I'm going to, and just full transparency, I think Ugnaughts are great. They're a very intelligent species, and they're not appreciated enough in Star Wars Galaxy. But I'm going to get rid of the Ugnaught because I think that's a waste of a figure as well. When I look at this list, and I'm looking at the Black Series figure because these are the action figures that are a little higher price point. They're about $20 to $25. Mm-hmm. We know that they're going to get a little bit more expensive here in the near future. $70 if you want that hyper real Vader. But if I wanted a Hoth Rebel soldier, my mind is like, do I want one figure of really good quality of that, or do I want 10 not so great so I can do like a diorama set? I think I'm leaning towards diorama. So I think between these options, and the live chat, a lot of people are asking for Wedge. JD Comics wants Bosk. I think the Wilro Hood would be really funny.
It would be funny, but not likely.
Right, because I don't think people know enough about this guy. Like people just thought he was like some schmuck. He's actually this guy who works on Cloud City. Mm-hmm. He works for Cloud City. He's working with like climate control or something. Empire comes in. You know, there's like someone in the background is like backstabbing Bespin. He ends up becoming like a Rebel Alliance member, like trying to help save the day and such. And I just think that's like an unsung hero, and that makes me really happy. And so I would be really cool with that. I think Lobot has been done enough where like people will get him because he's niche and like it's a joke, like it's Lobot. But I really do think that if you don't go with the Wilro Hood, which has made it to the top 10 for a reason, Jesse, fans are supporting this pick. If you don't go that direction, because that would be something completely new, and we've seen the Lukes on Dagobah before, I think you go Wedge Antilles. I think you go Wedge.
Yeah, Wedge would be nice. A popular character. I still dismayed that he hasn't made an appearance in the sequel trilogy.
Well, Dennis needs to be a little bit nicer. And
Dennis, please. You just happen to stumble upon this podcast, you're our only hope. We need an actual X-wing pilot.
It would be cool to see him back in episode 9. Of course, we get to play with that character a little bit in the Aftermath trilogy by Chuck Wendig.
Yeah,
3 great books there, and you get to have a little bit of Wedge in that story. So just to let you know, if you go, the poll is up right now for the top 10. If you head over on Instagram, I know a lot of people are on Instagram. You head over to @HasbroPulse on Instagram to cast your vote for one of the top these Empire Strikes Back characters that you'd like to see made into a 6-inch fig. That'd be really awesome. Be sure you do that. And when you go do that, feel free to tag us in your post because I think that would be really great. All right, cool. So, wow, cruising right along here. It is 12:07. We're cruising to that hour mark. We have our next topic. MarkHamill says he feels tricked by the sequel trilogy and never getting a chance to work with MarkHamill. Or not with MarkHamill, with Harrison Ford. MarkHamill didn't have a chance to work with himself. Well, you can make that argument. He didn't have much of a role in The Last Jedi. We have been hearing a lot in the last few years. Mm-hmm. Does MarkHamill like or not like The Last Jedi? And there seems to be this ongoing thing where people are misconstruing his words. People talk about this topic because it's MarkHamill. Yeah. It's because MarkHamill has gone to the comic conventions. He has gone to the Star Wars weekends and celebrations. He's active on social media. Ever since '83, the end of Return of the Jedi, Mark Hamill has stayed engaged with the Star Wars fan base and speculating on what Master Luke Skywalker did. And so now we're getting some comments here. And the one I thought right off the bat was he looks Hogsbook. I can't even pronounce this word, but basically he feels tricked into doing the sequel trilogy because he was under the impression he was going to be doing 3 movies, not a cameo. He's going to be going through the trilogy, and what he got was appearing at the end of 7, and then episode 8, and then he's dead at the end. He says that he honestly feels like he was just in 1 movie because he feels that 7, the end of 7, is actually the start of 8, just because of how the 2 movies sync up. What is your take on this? I mean, is there sympathy here? How do you interpret Mark's words?
Again, it's one of those things where we know that just social media and people who want to just crap all over the sequel, like the haters or the angry nerds kind of thing, they're going to pull, whatever they can from whatever interview. And, Mark said this, he's extremely unhappy, kind of thing. But at the same time, I think on some degree, there probably is some sort of unhappiness there because, he's mentioned, yeah, I was in 7, but I don't say anything. I just turn around and take my hood off, I think he was like, I was speechless, because Mark he's got he likes to troll people. He's trolled me personally, but it's one of those things where, he could be unhappy a little bit, and I have sympathy on that. But at the same time, though, maybe it's a clever ploy. Maybe he's just trying to lead fans in one direction, so that way when they see 9. There's that thought.
That leads me to my next point, because he talks about how he puts a lot of emphasis in this interview. He did this, by the way, with Den of Geek. He did this interview within the last week or so. And he puts a lot of emphasis on the fact that he never got to have an on-screen moment with Han. And he revisits this like 2 or 3 times. And he's promoting like the show Nightfall that he's doing over in the UK. He's not even here to talk about Star Wars. He's talking about how, the scene where he asks, where's Han? Luke misses his friend, wants to know where his friend is. He learns that his friend is dead. And then Luke talks about just how the fact that, he's really bummed that they didn't have that opportunity to bring those characters back together. But then he says, but I guess it's not a big a deal because no one seems to care. No one seems to care that Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford's Han Solo, Carrie Fisher's Leia never reunited on screen. I think the internet lost its mind at first after The Last Jedi because they were really frustrated. Going back to the end of Force Awakens, Han's dead. In that moment, you're never going to get those 3 characters together. Jesse, am I misunderstanding this? Did I have I forgotten something here? Or I think people are upset.
I hate to say it, but okay, so The Force Awakens starts. Luke Skywalker is missing. Mm-hmm. That's the whole premise of The Force Awakens. Where is Luke? We need him back. We got to find him. That's the whole mission. Here. That's the whole plot of the entire movie, was getting the map to find Skywalker. Okay, Han dies trying to achieve that goal, and while tragic, yes, and we're not even talking about the family issues here. It's the fact that you go from Force Awakens, and yes, you get that final moment. He takes his hood off. Fast forward The Last Jedi. So we get The Last Jedi. We've got Rey standing there, and he just kind of lobs the saber over the shoulder, and then Chewie kicks his front door in, and that's when he's like, Chewie, what are you doing here? And then it's like, well, where's Han?
It's misdirect.
It's there, yeah, and it's one of those things where in the deleted scenes, you get that moment where he's being told about Han's death. He's very much grief stricken and everything. And we know that, Luke blames himself for the, Ben Solo's, fall to the dark side and everything. He blames himself for the Jedi, the new Jedi Order being destroyed that he was trying to, restart and everything. No, so I'm not upset that there wasn't the 3 of them together, because I do feel like there's a great story there. I think what is upsetting is I would be upset if he doesn't have a part in 9 in some way, because I do feel like we didn't really get the fan service needed to actually see how powerful he was.
We know that Luke is in Episode 9. That's been confirmed for a long time. His casting was confirmed a long time ago. I don't think it's going to be a big role. I think the focus really is going to be on the new crew, Rey, Poe, and Finn, X, Y, and Z. But I think what this is, I think Mark is trying to stir the pot. I think it's misdirect.
Mm-hmm.
I think we actually might, in a form of a flashback. And I'm not the only one to say that. I mean, I'm not trying to be like a genius here. There's a lot of people out there, and I like it.
I like flashbacks.
In a flashback that you'd get like a Luke training Leia with Han there or something. Like somehow they'd be reunited again in the form of a flashback. Wouldn't it be very hard for Harrison Ford to come over for a day and shoot a new scene? Wouldn't it be very hard to do it all? But that's what I'm thinking because, like I said, he spends a lot of time on this, and he says, Luke, Han, and Leia will never be able to be together again, and I'll probably never work with Harrison again. And he admits he feels like that's a little selfish. Some people are taking this like he's pissed because he doesn't get to work with like one of the best actors of Hollywood. I don't think that.
No.
I think it's he wants to work with his buddy. Like Harrison was like the big bro to Carrie and Luke on that original set. He was 35. He was 19, like early 20s. So it's like there is a friendship there. There's a real bond.
You know, especially, I mean, like Mark has constantly talked about, his friendship with Carrie. But I mean, even the behind the scenes stuff that, they talk about how they went, basically partying together, like while filming Empire and whatnot. Yeah, they're actors, they were celebrities kind of thing. And yeah, sure, Harrison Ford, really had this he went on to do Indiana Jones, Air Force One, The Fugitive. Mark Hamill really dived into, voice acting, but they both have had their successes in film and everything.
Right.
This is more about, I think, Mark likes telling a story, and I feel like probably, if anything, there is truth in what he's saying, that there is a story element missing, that there's a fan service not happening in this sequel, trilogy, and that is a problem. But I think that's a problem of them not having somebody to actually guide.
Mm-hmm.
Rian Johnson should not have been given free will to just run wherever he went with his story. There should have been somebody going, no, you reel that back in a little bit. You're going too far off track. You can't just discard everything that was set up in this first movie.
I think that JJ is going to kind of do a course correct, not necessarily course correct, but I think it's going to be more of a sequel to his Force Awakens than Episode 6. And just a reminder, in case you didn't know, December 20th is when Episode 9 drops.
We'll be there.
We have, there's more even in that article. We're not going to be able to get to it, but we'll put that down in the description below after the show. We'll be sure to have that in the description on our podcast format so that you're able to check the hell out. But it is very interesting. Again, Den of Geek doing that interview. And I mentioned Episode 9 coming out December 20th. I'm just going to show this really quick. It's just an image of Bob Iger. It's just because he showed images of the film. He showed footage to stockholders. Won't spend time on this, just that he showed video. It supposedly included a shot of Lando, Billy D. Williams back as Lando, Kylo Ren in a white room admiring the helmet. So the Vader helmet rather, is back in some capacity in this movie. I think that was a good element of Force Awakens that I wish would have been kept through. I like that he worships his grandfather, Rey, Finn, and Chewie, and the Falcon. So no context as far as we don't know what's happening really in these scenes. It's just footage. It means nothing. It doesn't mean that we're getting a trailer anytime soon. I think all it is to show stockholders something because we're in the age of the stockholder. We're here to make the stockholders happy, so they buy. So they buy. And now fan Comlink. We're wrapping up the show. Episode 61. It's been a lot of fun. Before we go, though, we want to hear from you. As always, we take Twitter questions, and we put them here at the end of the show for fan Comlink. One question was sent in before we started recording today. Thankful to them. And if time allows, we'll dive into the live chat on YouTube and say, as a thank you for all the people who hang out with us when we are live on the show. Gannon says, hi, Uncle Bob. That would be Uncle Bob Iger. Okay, cool. So Dan Solo asks, what is your favorite moment in The Phantom Menace? And so I feel like everyone has the same favorite scene, Duel of the Fates. Mm-hmm. So I'm taking it off the board. I do not want that to be an option for us to pick. So now I'm going to clear the stage. I'm fascinated to find out what you chose because I've looked through that movie. There are not Mandalorians in The Phantom Menace. So I look forward to seeing what you pick.
makes me really sad, David.
I'm not trying to say. I'm just
that's
very
like a
interested.
personal jab.
It's not a jab. It's a recurring theme of the show.
You know that I don't know.
Your favorite moment in the Phantom Menace.
I hope I'm not alone in this scene.
Okay.
It's most of as you mentioned, everybody's like Duel of Fates. Great scene, great moment. Not my favorite. A lot of people go to pod racing after that. The pod racing was cool. Again, not my favorite moment.
Okay.
My favorite moment is when Darth Maul leaps off his speeder bike to attack Qui-Gon Jinn while they're traveling back to the ship to get off of Tatooine.
Okay.
You know, so we get a fight. We get a lightsaber fight.
Yes.
But at the same time, though, it's just like it's an ambush. Qui-Gon wasn't expecting it. Now he's fighting this dark robed figure with a red lightsaber. You know, and he's holding his own kind of. It's like, holy, this is like an intense moment, and he escapes, and everything. And it's just like that moment. Just in particular, it's like when Maul is still in the air, and the lightsaber ignites. I just love it. It's like my favorite scene in that entire movie because
you found a loophole.
Scary.
You found a loophole in the way that I asked this question because you still found a way to incorporate lightsabers, and I just realized that I could have because I love that scene.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's lots
that
of
story
lightsabers.
changes a lot. I think if they make the air and let Maul just like behead Anakin in that moment, that it doesn't quite sync up with the original trilogy that well. But I just remember the thrill of it and like the suspense and being 7 or 8 years old in the theater watching that scene play out. And just like the adrenaline rush of him cruising up with that speeder. He's dueling Qui-Gon, and Qui-Gon is getting outworked so quickly in that battle. Like he's overwhelmed. And you're like, this is supposed to be a Jedi Master or Jedi Knight, one of the best of the time. And he's getting ousted by this like apprentice, the Sith apprentice. The Sith apprentice must be so strong. I think because of what you brought up, I really like when they're in the hangar and they're having to escape from Naboo. And so Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are just destroying all these droids because I was so excited to see Jedi in their prime. We've always seen like old man Obi against old man Vader. We had a Luke with no training against a Vader. We had a Jedi Knight Luke, but he hadn't really been trained by a Jedi Master.
We needed that middle-aged Jedi.
It's not, we're getting Jedi in their prime.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't seen a Sith in 1,000 years. They are keepers of the peace, and that was really cool. However, I cannot say that is my favorite scene because that would just be very weak. I'm going with the pod race because I think the pod race, it captures the imagination of anyone who watches it.
Yeah.
Can you say that it's a little too long? You can make that argument, but again, going back, when I saw that movie for the first time, my first theatrical experience with Star Wars was 8 years old with my dad, seeing that pod race, that part where like the one pod racer flips over the other one. I mean, that's just insane. And like sitting there with my dad, his jaw was dropped. We walked out of that theater going, I've never seen movies do that except the last time I saw Star Wars in the theater. And he's talking about how like the Falcon was in the Death Star and it shoots out through the fireball. Like that scene always really stuck with him for some reason. I think that is so cool that George kept upping the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's so fun for me. I like the thrill. And also, I'm Anakin's age at that time. And like, here's this kid who has like a special ability, who's able to do these incredibly powerful things. He's a curious mind. He asks a lot of questions. He's kind of annoying. I think that's how my teachers would describe me in school. So like, there was just like a lot of like connections I made with him. And who doesn't want to be this young boy with all this potential? Like at that time, he is just innocent Anakin Skywalker.
This was, a lot of people complain about the CGI elements of the prequels, and yes, at times I think it was overdone. The pod race is one of the nicest moments and everything because when they're on Tatooine, they're talking about, oh, I hate it when Watto makes you do that. It's dangerous. And then like you get into the actual race and you can see why it's dangerous. I mean, these things are like, zipping around, speeder bike speed, if not faster. You're obviously playing against, the scum and villainy
Right.
and everything, because I mean, Sebulba's sitting there flinging parts into people's engines and ramming people, and I mean, he sabotages Anakin's own pod racer even before the fights or the race starts. That's really cool and everything, you know. Like, I did enjoy it. Maybe yes, a little bit long, but I think kind of an important scene to actually kind of show that, you know, here's, you know, a kid that with, you know, strong, you know, force sensitivity and everything.
Yeah, and like the Mos Espa's arena was really cool. All the crowd of all the different species. I just like I really do enjoy it. As I get older, yeah, the scene feels a little too long. Like, it was George having a lot of fun with his CGI, but my goodness, it was it is fun.
My only real complaint,
Yeah.
actually, about the pod racers, I did not like the sound of Anakin's pod racer, because I felt like it
That
sounded
is such a Jesse complaint.
I know, but I loved it as a kid, but as an adult, it reminds me too much of like basically like NASCAR kind of thing, where like I actually like find that Sebulba's pod racer has a very unique sound.
Yeah,
you know, like
that's really bad impressions of both. But
I know, but I mean, it's just like,
thank you.
10 times cooler, you know, sound than how Anakin's pod racer sounds and everything.
Is there anyone watching this race now because of this conversation? I hope so, because like I'm having like an urge to watch it. Honorable mention, and then we're gonna get out of here because we've hit the hour mark. Honorable mention: the swimming up scene to Otogunga, the Gungan village underwater. This movie gets bashed so much for CGI, but actually, you know what though? For the time, I think it still holds up, especially the scenery shots. And this was I've never seen anything like this before. It was so cool. This underwater village. You walked through this like plasma thing, and then there was like this oxygen. Like, it was just visually, it was beautiful. Like, I remember that was like the first time where I was like watching a movie going, that's beautiful. So I want to throw that out there again. But I think people know this. I think Revenge of the Sith is by far the best of the prequel trilogy. But I think Phantom Menace is a solid Star Wars movie. Like, I think it is really good, and it is starting to get more appreciation, I think, as people like us, like that watch it as young. We're getting older. We're getting a voice now. I mean, look at this. I mean, Star Wars Celebration is 5 days this year. It used to only be 4. It's 5 days now, and all of Monday is dedicated to the Phantom Menace 20th anniversary. We have panels. We have giveaways. They'll probably announce the freaking Obi-Wan TV show for the streaming service. They're gonna have. I'm sure they'll do it.
They're gonna throw you a loop. It's gonna be Boba Fett.
If they're gonna mention it at Star Wars Celebration, it's gonna happen on Monday, the day that we're not there. So that's awesome. Gannon 136, Patrick Covey, a friend of the show, he says that they should make a updated Pod Racer video game. Probably talking about the one for the N64.
I have that still. It's a fantastic game.
I have the Project 64 emulator. It's awesome on there too. I would totally support that.
You remember the arcade one where you actually that was so much fun.
You could play that the Ronnie 16 in St. Louis. So you could get behind that thing and you play an Anakin's. You got to ride Anakin's pod racer though. Was that sound really annoying though for you?
It's time to go, Jesse.
Oh.
But I'm not done with the race. It's time to go.
You're okay with the sound of the pod racer then, I guess. All right, cool. So that is fan Comlink from Dan Solo. Dan, thank you again for that question. Hope everyone had fun with that conversation. I got the live chat queued up. Again, we go live on YouTube every Sunday, but we also have this in podcast form. iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify. You also can catch this on patreon.com/Beyond the Blast Doors. And the live chat is just loaded right now with people giving their favorite scenes and their.
Let's hear them. Let's hear some of them.
They had just that's the ones that we had along with ours, talking about now they're talking about how episode 2 and episode 1 are kind of misunderstood, but the desert scene gets mentioned. They mentioned Otogunga. They mentioned this other duel with Qui-Gon. And the Jedi Council meeting in Coruscant for the first time, just seeing what that looked like. The Jedi Temple.
You know, that's again, people bashed on these movies for a long time. And if you go back and yes, there's still some bad lines, some bad moments. You got to look for, like the golden moments throughout all the movies,
and that's what we just did. We found the golden moments. We shared them together. We embraced ourselves in a Star Wars conversation, and now it's come to an end.
We could keep going all day on this. But
we could, and that's a fun thing. And maybe we'll just save it for next week. But we are trying to do, you might have noticed, we don't have Real Talk this week. We didn't do Pages, Pixels, Pieces, or Stash or Blast It. we're trying a new format and seeing if this serves better. Fewer topics, but deeper Star Wars conversation here on Beyond the Blast Doors. We just want to say thank you so much for joining us this week on Beyond the Blast Doors. If you haven't already, be sure you throw this a comment down in the comments section. If you're watching the live chat when we end the stream, be sure you just refresh your page so that way you can leave a permanent comment. I want to know from you, what is your favorite moment from The Phantom Menace to stay in line with Fan Comlink? I think that's how we can continue the Star Wars conversation. Because Jesse wants to go another hour just on that question alone.
I could just
he
talk
kind of
about
does. He kind of does. So let us know down in the comments below whether you're watching or listening. What's your favorite moment of The Phantom Menace? If you haven't already, give us that thumbs up button. This is your first time checking out Beyond the Blast Doors. Be sure you hit subscribe and ring the bell so that way the next time we go live or we drop a new episode of Beyond the Panel or a new type of video, you're the first to find out. Looking ahead to next week, we're going to be joined with Kyle Larson of StarWarsNewsNet.com. He's a contributor over there, does comic book reviews, and we're going to be talking about the current state of Star Wars comics. An article just came out saying how sales are up and up the first 4 years of Marvel's new run compared to the first. There's a lot of reasons why that's a dust statement, but we're going to take a look at that and more with Kyle Larson next week here on Beyond the Blast Doors, episode number 62. Jesse, it's been a blast, man.
Always.
That was a thrill. Can you hear the excitement? He's sad.
Always.
He's not happy that we're ending this episode.
Oh man, yeah, it's really
it's okay.
I just want
to
go on about the prequels and everything.
We're rolling the animation. We're closing this thing out. Thanks for joining us again. Be sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe on all these YouTube and podcasting locations now.
Thank you for watching Beyond the Blast Doors. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment. Beyond the Blast Doors, a Star Wars conversation.